p.m. and going to the Council of Medford City Hall. The purpose of the meeting is to address two papers referred by the subcommittee on zoning and ordinances to the committee of the whole. 1, 15-749, crafting an ordinance banning replica handguns in public places. Number 2, 16-771, ordinance relative to wage theft prevention. The committee has requested that Chief Leo Sacco be invited to the meeting for input on subject matter. For further information, aids, and accommodations, contact 781-393-2425. Yours truly, Richard Caragiello, Council President. We have.
Mr. President, motion to take up paper 16772 first, as Chief Sacco isn't here yet.
Okay. On the motion by Councilor Knight to take up 16771. Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, this is a resolution that I put forward in conjunction with members of Community Labor United and the Greater Boston Labor Council. There have been a number of phone calls that I've received relative to this resolution, all in support of it. Members of our Human Rights Commission, members of the community, so on and so forth. It's a rather long document, so I'd like to take a moment to go through it and give my council colleagues that weren't on the subcommittee a little bit of a breakdown as to what the wage theft prevention ordinance does. Ultimately, what the wage theft, well, why don't we start off by defining wage theft? And I have a nice definition right now, so make it a little easier for everybody.
Mr. Clerk, if you could please mark Councilmember Kern as being present.
So, wage theft is defined as the improper withholding of any payments to employees and the failure to pay employees according to required schedules established by state and federal law. And ultimately, this ordinance proposal here will establish certain requirements for those that are bidding on municipal contracts. First portion of the proposal requires certification that the contractor or the subcontractors have not been subject to state or federal judgments resulting from a violation of any state or federal laws regulating the payment of wages within the last 3 years. It also requires that if there has been a violation, certain materials must be furnished to the city, and it establishes a reporting requirement that the violation continues to occur during the term of the contract, if a violation occurs during the term of a contract. It also requires certain certifications and disclosures in writing to the purchasing agencies at the time the bid or proposal is applied for, certifying that within the last 3 years, the bidder has not been found in violation of any state or federal laws regulating the payment of wages. And if they have, they will disclose this to the city as part of their bid or proposal. It also requires any such violation during the term of the contract to be reported to the city, and excludes from the bid process vendors that have been subject to state or federal debarment prior to the award of their contract, and establishes grounds of termination for those that are involved in a current contract that have been debarred. It also requires that vendors awarded a contract but not disbarred from public contracting may be required to obtain a wage bond or another suitable form of insurance, and provide proof of such to the city, and requires vendors awarded contracts but not disbarred to furnish certified monthly payroll to the purchasing agent of the community. So ultimately what this does is it establishes a series of disclosures and requirements that is going to be put on the back of a public contractor bidding for a public contract, being paid with taxpayer dollars to ensure that they pay their employees in accordance with the prevailing wage law, Mr. President. It's very important. It's an issue that we can address here at this level, and it's an issue that's been reviewed by the administration. The administration has offered a letter of support and submitted it to all of us in the past. It's something that their office has vetted and reviewed as well. We worked in conjunction on it, and I personally find it to be good legislation. I find it to be important, Mr. President, because in FY 2016, there were over 6,000 complaints with the Attorney General's office relative to wage and hour violators, and her office was able to secure over $3.75 million in restitution to individuals whose wages were stolen from them, Mr. President. It also protects and ensures that the tax dollars are going to where it's supposed to go. So if Joe's Contracting gets awarded the bid to replace the water pipes on Main Street, they're required to pay their employees the prevailing wage. And what's common in the construction industry, among others, is that they will continue to pay their employees at a rate of $25 or $22 when the prevailing rate could be $43 or $45, and they pocket the rest of the money. So the business owner is not complying with the established wage and hour guidelines that are in place, and the employee who's entitled to receive that money is actually getting that money stolen from them. So this is a process that was reviewed with the Greater Boston Labor Council, the Community Labor United. We've also been in contact with Local 25, Medford resident Sean Brown's president there. We've been in touch with Louis Mandarini from Local 22, who is also a former Medford resident. His son is an attorney who was instrumental in helping craft this language, Mr. President. So that is the ordinance in a nutshell. We have some individuals here that I'd like to recognize. We have from Local 25, Jimmy O'Donovan, from Community Labor United, Lindy McCluskey. We have the Greater Boston Labor Council Executive Director here with us, Richie Rogers. And you have a name tag, I can't see it from here.
Oh, my name is Chris Fennell from Medford.
Hey, Chris. So I'd like to thank these individuals for coming here and showing their support for the ordinance. This is something that's not exclusive to Medford. It's something that's been going on across the Commonwealth. Chelsea is the only other city in the Commonwealth at the time, I believe, that has an ordinance that regulates such. A number of other communities have implemented the practice by way of executive order through the executive branch. So this is the way that we look at approaching it here in the city of Medford in cooperation with the mayor's office. This is the direction that we thought would be best. And the paper is before the council for questions, concerns, and deliberation. I rest, Mr. President. Thank you very much for your time.
Councilor Del Russo.
President, I worked with Councilor Knight on this in subcommittee. We reviewed it with the assistance of the city solicitor. I find it to be a good measure that protects the working person, brings integrity to the hiring process and the contracting process that the city consistently engages in. And it's a good measure in the sense of social justice, Mr. President. And for no other reason do I support this, that in the waning days of my presidency of this body, I had to read the entire ordinance into the record. So I support it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Second motion.
Discussion on the motion.
So
Councilor Walker.
through the chair, do you know what's the hesitation of most cities and towns not adopting the ordinance and going the route of executive order instead?
Couldn't tell you what they're doing in other cities and towns. I could only tell you what I think is best for what we do here in the city of Medford, working with the mayor's office and discussing with the mayor. We thought this would be a more effective approach, put it in our code of ordinances and make it be something that would have to be undone by a vote as opposed to undone by the swipe of a pen if her administration leaves the office.
Any further discussion? On the motion by Councilor Knight, seconded by Councilor Falco.
Motion to adopt the paper favor, then we'll put a committee.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 16. 15, 749, crafting an ordinance banning the replica handguns in public places. Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. As we go through the packet that was put together by the city clerk, there are a number of articles and draft pieces of legislation from other communities in place that regulate replica handguns, replica firearms, in public places. Ultimately, what this ordinance proposal does is we define what a replica firearm is, establishes an acceptable standard for possession in public places, and establishes enforcement criteria and penalties for violation, Mr. President. Ultimately, if we take a look through some of the materials here, we have a letter from the Boston Globe. Man pointed a replica handgun at another driver. Medford police were on the scene. We go through it. Mayor Walsh signs an ordinance banning replica handguns in public spaces. To stem fatal encounters, lead us target BB guns. So ultimately, Mr. President, what this is it's a method to make our streets safer and to give our police officers another tool in their toolbox to remain safe. Amazon and Walmart and the state of New York have been working on a statewide policy that's been implemented, I believe, in 2016. The whole state of New York is banning replica firearms in public places. So it's a measure that's really safety-based, that focuses on safe streets and safe communities, Mr. President. I don't think that there's any place for anybody in a public setting to be in possession of a replica firearm, pull it out and use it to create chaos. And I know that there are many responsible users, and responsible users can do such in private property, but in terms of having replica handguns as defined in the ordinance on public ground, I feel as though it's inappropriate. I would move for the committee to adopt the paper favorably and report it up this evening.
Thank you. Councilor Del Russo.
I think this is an excellent measure, and it's very proactive in the area of public safety. All too often in the news in recent years, we've seen a number of instances that have resulted in death because of the use of toy and replica handguns. My only question for the councilor is, and this has come up to mind in the period after we reviewed this thoroughly in subcommittee, was the issue of guns, replica guns, in the context of historical reenactment, which is often the case here in Medford, being a colonial town where the escapades and actions of patriots at the beginning of our nation are often reenacted here.
I can't remember seeing the Patriots coming down High Street, Council Della Russo, but certainly we could take a look at the proposed ordinance as is and establish some criteria to allow for a waiver and a permit and such.
Awesome.
Thank you, Councilor.
Second, Mr. President.
Seconded by Councilor Del Russo. Do we have any further discussion on this motion? Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Joe Villione, 59 Garfield Ave, Medford, Mass. I'm wondering why in 2015 there was a steak knife outside of council chambers for months, and there was a box cutter on the window ledge. When I go to New York to go to record companies, I have to go through metal detectors. Some buildings in Boston have the same thing. So we're talking about replica guns here. What about carelessness at Medford City Hall, where there's a steak knife and a box cutter that was available week after week after week, just laying out there? I think the council should address that.
I don't think it's there any longer. I think it's been taken away.
Never aware of this.
I hadn't been aware of it. I think it has now been taken out of there, and hopefully they won't be there again in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, Mr. President, I think that's a very good point, based upon, the free access that a number of people have to the building, and walking around, they do during the council meetings, and so on and so forth. I think it's very important that the building's secure, that there are no loose weapons or anything around.
You are
because
correct.
we really don't know who those individuals are, what the mental
That's right.
capacity is that are coming in the door. So I think that that's a great point that Mr. Viglione made, and I think that for your leadership, we'll be able to really wrap
I
it
think
up.
we will, and like I say, I would hope that we won't see those again in the future. Do we have any further discussion on this? Councilor O'Brien.
Thank you. Through the chair, which cities and towns did you use, or the subcommittee use to help draft this
I
section?
believe the city of Boston, if you look through the packet, there's also a proposal and everything, but I believe from a town in Texas or Florida.
Dallas, Texas. Dallas, Texas, and Boston.
I'm sorry, I didn't make it to the subcommittee, but in subcommittee, was it ever discussed, section D? It's probably as clear as I guess you could make the language, but legibly stamped there on, that obviously must have been discussed with like a toy manufacturer's name or. So if somebody has a white or bright red play gun, I'm assuming, then, or
So it's only
Or
for,
can it be a black gun with something that says Toys R Us on the right side, or, you know,
it can't be a
Can we
black
make
gun because the first sentence says the entire exterior surface of the imitation firearm is colored white, red, bright orange, bright yellow, bright blue, bright pink, bright purple.
yeah, but
Either
it also
singly-
says or,
Either singly,
A,
Or as the
or
predominant
B,
common.
C, D.
or
Or
as
D.
the predominant color, combination with other patterns. So I don't think that a black replica firearm would be covered under the ordinance in a public place. You can keep it in your private property, in your private place like it was.
I think you could have it as long as it says maybe Toys R Us, and just throwing it out there, just if it said Toys R Us on the bottom, and it was legible, but at the same time, it's not visible to the naked eye, you know.
I'd be happy to strike that section.
No, I'm just trying to discuss it, to kind of throw around maybe a different idea to make it more clear. Because you do have the word or, so for me, it would say you could have a black gun, but maybe on one side it could say Toys R Us, and then on the other side where somebody could say, oh my gosh, that's a real gun, you know, does it have to be on both sides of the gun?
Generally, replica guns usually have like an orange cap on the outside, on the nose. And I know that the kids take them off sometimes, but that's how they're sold, with a red or an orange cap, so that signifies replica.
But the ordinance we're passing says that kids could have a black gun that says
Toys R Us.
Toys R Us, and that's and I guess, I'm sure it was vetted, but that seems like okay language. I just feel like we could maybe toss around a few other ideas to make it more clear and to make it, I mean, I don't, I'm not in the toy industry, so I don't know.
But no, some reasonable, a reasonable thought comes in, you know, when someone.
Because I think if you want those guns to be that certain color, you just have to strike the word or after A.
Or strike D entirely. I mean, ultimately,
Yeah, I mean, 'cause I think
ultimately, I don't
maybe-
think that toy manufacturer, or replica handgun manufacturers, or replica firearm manufacturers are gonna be making this special Medford model, where they're gonna be stamping the name on the side of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just gonna say, we're not gonna sell it to Medford.
Right, but you get somebody that has black gun and it was taken or whatever, and they said, no, under D it said Toys R Us on the bottom right, it's legible, you know, and it's just.
I've had the opportunity to go to a gun range with a couple of friends of mine, and with many women that were pink guns,
Nice.
with real pink
Real
guns.
pink guns, yeah.
I didn't know they intimidated, but they do pink guns.
But it must have been like, so, was it fully pink?
Fully pink.
Fully pink, wow.
Fully pink, yeah. It was about 3 or 4 women had them.
I mean, ultimately, it's a proposal to deter individuals that are over the age of 18 years to be carrying around these fake guns that look like real guns, to, you know, participate in mischievous and sometimes nefarious behavior. Replica firearms are quite frequently seized during drug raids, quite frequently seized during drug stops, and quite frequently used on the street to intimidate people. So that's the reason why I bring the resolution forward.
Do you have any further discussion?
If I could, Mr. President.
Councilor Marks?
Is this ordinance also address the sale of replica guns?
It does not.
Is there any reason why we look at the sale of it? I mean, we have stores in the city right now that sell toy guns,
I mean,
which I would say
in
toy,
terms
but
of our ability to implement the proposal in a timely fashion that would have immediate dividends, I think that banning them from public places is the way to go. I think that we have some maybe legal concerns in restricting the sale thereof.
I don't know. I think other states have, that's
At
how
the
they
state level.
go after it.
Yeah,
They
at the state
ban
level,
this.
but at the local level, do we have the ability to exclude somebody from participating in commerce?
Absolutely, absolutely we do.
Unfortunately, the city solicitor is not able to attend this evening due to prior engagement. This meeting was originally scheduled for last week, and we moved it up because of the storm, so that's why he's not here this evening. He does send his regrets. Do we have any further discussion?
Mr. President, I think it's a worthy ordinance. I think really, I as one member would like to see an emphasis on the sale of replica guns be banned in the city. If we're gonna put a penalty for having someone carry one around, it could be a 10-year-old son that runs from the backyard into the middle of the street with one. I'd rather see us ban them from stores, because I think it goes hand in hand. You know, how can you go down to the local corner store and buy one and then not be able to brandish it in front of your house and play cops and robbers with your friends, or whatever you might be playing.
I think that's something we can, this can be, the motion was gonna refer this to the city solicitor for his review, seeing that he wasn't here this evening anyways. See if there's any changes.
Well, my recommendation would be that we add language that would ban it in wholesale retail in the community.
Council Knight is the subcommittee
If the
chairman.
gentleman wants to draft something up, the subcommittee would be happy to look at it.
Do you wanna draft something up and give it to the
We
subcommittee?
could adopt this and then further amend the ordinance at a later date, if we can come up with some language, in terms of this language.
So this came out of committee, then came to committee of the whole?
Yes.
Yes.
Because Mark was supposed to be here.
So if it's in committee of the whole, it's before the council now, no longer before the subcommittee.
It'll be reported on this evening.
So you were looking to report this
It's
out?
already been reported on the subcommittee, now
Right.
it's committee of the whole, the question is whether or not the committee of the whole wants to report it out favorably, they wanna look at it more.
Well, I think we just recommended, I thought you said you were gonna send it to Roman.
He will review it to make sure we haven't made any mistakes on this.
So then maybe we should ask Roman the questions that we have
Yeah.
posed this evening.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable, Mr. Brown, I think it's a worthy,
It's controversial, I mean, in other states it's been controversial, there's no question about it, mostly when it got into the sale side of things, when they tried to start regulating the sale thereof in communities is when it became controversial. But, you know, there's an article in here talking about Walmart and Amazon, pulling toy guns from New York City shelves.
Right.
So five US retailers have agreed to keep them off their shelves in New York State, but they'll also pay more than $30,000 in fines for selling them illegally. So it looks like that was more of a, statewide settlement agreement than it was a.
So we're gonna keep this in committee of the whole?
Another question.
Just 15, 749. Councilwoman Cram.
Just in committee, was the age discussed to potentially lower it? Or can we do that?
Age to what?
Well, if any individual, under 18, okay, that's what we said. Under 18.
Contact.
So if they're a minor, they'd have.
And then
to
if
come
they're
again,
over
if
18,
they're
gotcha,
over 18.
gotcha, okay, sorry, it was part of the confusion, okay.
I think it's just a tool that helps identify individuals in the community, allows the police to identify individuals in the community that, they may have concern about as well.
Is it
Name
appropriate
and
to
address
make
of the
a
record,
comment?
please. Name and address of the record,
Okay,
please.
I was recently at the Tea Party
Give
Museum.
give us your name and
My
address
name
of the
is
record.
Chris Fennell, I live at 61 Surrey Street. And I was recently at the Tea Party Museum down in the waterfront where the Tea Party ship is, and they have a beautiful gift shop and beautiful replica guns that we talked to the manager about, you know, are these real guns? And he said, no, they're just replica, and they're just really works of art. And I really not want to see unintended consequences of discouraging this kind of a store, especially where we are such a historical community, or reenactments. I used to live in Uxbridge. We had reenactments all the time, and I think they'd be great here too. You know, so I wouldn't want to see any unintended consequences of discouraging this sort of activity. Although I do agree with these handguns, the children's guns that look real, like the children that have been unfortunately killed because they were playing with them. That does need to be addressed, but I am concerned about the replica effect.
Any further discussion?
So the committee report's gonna reflect Councilor Del Russo's question as to adding language in there to allow for reenactments, and Council Knox's, question for a legal opinion as to whether or not we can bar the sale thereof as well.
I mean, we have the annual cemetery event, that's really not a reenactment, they fire off the weapons, and would that prohibit the color guard from coming out and the honor guard from coming out and firing their weapons? I don't know, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Right.
reenactment and events.
But I think that's a good point that Council Del Russo makes, that we have to.
Patriots Day, I mean, that is a central part of it. I mean, Paul Revere, Mr. Dallas from Gallatin through Medford, you know, they're not brandishing their guns, they're attacking.
Are they backing?
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk, do you have those recommendations?
We're gonna keep it committee in the soccer room.
Any further discussion on this?
We're gonna keep it,
We're gonna keep 15749, we'll stay in committee until the solicitor makes his recommendations on things that we've had. Any further discussion before we close out? Want to thank the subcommittee for all their hard work. And
16772 will be reported up.
771. Yeah, it is. 771.
It's really 771, I question.
But I want to thank the subcommittee for all their work, and again, these, I don't think people realize the amount of time that goes into these ordinances, and again, I want to thank them for their hard work. On the motion, Councilor Falco to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Knight, motion to adjourn.